Allison is a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain and has been for how long?
Oh, 30 years
How,
probably.
how many times have you renewed?
About 5 times now. Yeah, at least.
And so she's been out there for a long time. She offers keelboat sailing lessons, boat handling skill lessons, safety drills, navigations, rules of the road, introduction. And she also does deliveries, day sail trips, and Pacific Ocean cruises off of Southern California and the Channel Islands.
I just wanted to start with a little introduction too, that I grew up around the water. I played in the water. I learned to swim and fish at a really early age. And I had an early fascination with boats. I grew up in Ohio on the Great Lakes. And I know when I tell people that, they always want to know, well, yeah, Ohio. And I'm sure they're confused with Iowa or something, but I grew up where there was a lot of water, and that's what we did. I learned to really enjoy the water. And just loved it. I was one of those kids who could not get out of the water. I'd be turning blue and it was freezing, but I wouldn't get out. But my fascination with water really impacted my life. It definitely shaped who I am. It influenced my hobbies and how I spend my spare time, where I go on vacation, paid for my education. It helped me develop some kind of unique skills that led to a somewhat unique career path. It's allowed me to travel the world and have adventures that most people will never experience. It brought me joy and appreciation for the wonders of life, particularly in the water. And most importantly, it introduced me to like-minded friends who love being in, on, under, and around the water. At age 2, sitting in a metal wash tub, splashing the water with joy with Grandpa. I remember playing in the waves on the sandbars at Cedar Point before there was an amusement park there. I remember catching my first fish when I was 4 years old with a dime store plastic fishing rod, and I was hooked from then on. But once a year, my dad's boss, Mr. Mohat, who owned a large cabin cruiser, invited our family for a visit. And I can remember being 3 and 4 years old and just absolutely enthralled with that, and telling my parents, I want one of these too. So I knew from a very young age I was probably going to be a boater. I was fortunate to grow up near the water, and it's something my family did. We spent our summer weekends at the beach. My cousins, I have 61st cousins, I have a lot of cousins. That's what
Wow.
we did. We hung out at the water. It was an inexpensive thing to do. Our parents probably didn't know where we were all day long, but they figured if one of us got into trouble, somebody else would rescue us, I guess. But we just spent our time playing at the beach and at the water. And I learned to start sailing small craft, and then went to a little bit bigger boats and bigger boats. And I started coaching, I started teaching, and I've coached, boat handling, safety, sailing, canoeing, kayaking, crew, at everywhere from community level through, college level. I learned how to take care of vessels. I learned to sail larger boats. I got certified from several different organizations. I got a bareboat charter certificate. I got my Coast Guard captain's license, and as was mentioned, I've renewed it quite a few times. Um, Also, because of my water interests, I've owned a lot of boats. This is one of my smallest ones, Ariel, the tugboat, and right now I own a Lagoon 380. But I've had a dozen boats over the years, and interestingly, they've all had mermaid names, hence the mermaids. Met up with friends who have similar interests. They're aquatic professionals that I've worked with. They're just friends and relatives and colleagues who, like most of you, just love the water too. We know we're the lucky ones because we're truly able to enjoy our water planet. As part of my career, I know for a fact that most people can't swim. They're afraid to be around the water. They absolutely will not get on a boat. And when we look at that, we know only about 34% of Americans can swim at all. And if you look at good swimmers, people who could swim, laps back and forth in a pool for an extended amount of time, it's about 2 to 7% of the population. Another interesting trivia fact is, even though I'm going to mention it's a small world, most boaters never go more than 3 miles offshore. The Coast Guard thinks less than 15% of all boat owners have ever been more than 3 miles offshore. So the people who are really out there sailing and cruising and doing something, it's a small number of people. But I've got this group of friends, the mermaids, because of the mermaid boat names, friends who've been sailing with me. There's the official mermaids, and then there's everybody else who thinks they're an official mermaid. We've got lots of mermen too. But this one group, we're kind of, mid 60s to early 80s. Some of us have known each other since high school or college or brownies. Uh, some of them are friends of friends who became part of the group. We live all over the country in Ohio, California, Washington, Maryland, Idaho, Wisconsin, Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Texas. But we've managed to get together several times a year. For about 35 years, we've been getting together to sail every summer, more or less, often day after Christmas and frequently spring break, because of course we're never too old for spring break. We have started things as a group. For instance, we have a ukulele band. We're not very good, but we've actually gone to some festivals and done a few little local concerts. We sometimes let husbands and adult kids join us, but mostly the girls get together for a week of fun and games, arts and crafts, eating and drinking, and basically laughing till our sides hurt. We have a text thread that's been going for years. Uh, I work as a recreational water consultant, but because I learned to sail, I've been able to do some things that I would do if people didn't pay me to do them. I pay them to do them. But I do them for free. So, for instance, I've been able to do day sailing trips and whale watching trips and corporate regattas. Uh, I provided boating education and instruction. I've participated in rallies, everything from several Baja Hajas to Sail Sia Cortez weeks to Newport Ensenada races to Sail Asia rallies, the Darwin to Australia through Indonesia to Bali. I've done boat deliveries along the Pacific coast, basically from central Mexico to San Francisco area, California. For a couple of years, I was actually paid to be the Bud Light line boat and advertise for Budweiser. Instead of having an airplane and dragging something behind me, they paid me to sail up and down and around San Diego Bay and up and down the coast. Basically, slow moving boats. People see those advertisements. They also supplied me with beer to hand out. So we would go out during the beer can races, for instance, on Wednesday afternoon, sail the opposite direction from the racers and throw cans of beer to them. I've also been able to participate in some activities out on the water because of my boating skills. For instance, I got to be a forestale trimmer for a couple of years aboard a 1930s schooner. I was a mission specialist aboard a research submarine, Antipodes, with the Undersea Voyager project, where we dove to, if you look at that little thing, you'll notice I'm 747 feet below the ocean. We were there to identify significant targets, but interestingly, what we found was mostly beach umbrellas that blew miles offshore and sunk in 700 feet of water covered with sea urchins and shrimp. I've sailed as a crew member aboard the tall ship California from Dana Point to Hilo, Hawaii. I actually was able to steer the African Queen, one of the boats that was really used in the Humphrey Bogart, Katharine Hepburn movie. Joetta, I see you somewhere on here too. You remember our famous trip up the Niger River to Timbuktu. I was able to steer a cruise ship once with gray whales playing on the bow instead of dolphins. A friend let me sit in the captain's chair on the bridge of a Navy amphibious assault vessel as it came back into port. That was interesting to see how you can't see those little boats running in front of you. I was able to write my name in bioluminescence like sparklers sitting in a circle with friends on the bottom of the ocean at midnight. I've watched a video of a dinner scene in Disney's 2000 Leagues Under the Sea while eating lobster and key lime pie in an underwater habitat with lobsters watching me through the porthole. I've sailed as captain of the American sailboat in the Team Anzus regattas in Sydney Harbor. I've watched the America Cup races up close. I've enjoyed that thrill of milling around in the old glory days before the start of the Newport Ensenada races when there were 600 other sailboats trying to stay out of each other's way. I've explored islands, climbed lighthouses. I've been chased by a thundering herd of bighorn sheep on Rattlesnake Island, collected Petoskey stones. I was marooned on Santa Barbara Island once for 2 days. I've been able to watch lightning shows over bodies of water from Lake Erie to water spouts off of Miami. I've enjoyed hurricane parties on a research vessel while sitting out storms in the Bahamas during a month chasing spotted Atlantic dolphins.
Hey, sweetie.
So as an example, You can see that baby whale is really
You're
curious. He's
thin
watching
down
us.
there.
He's gonna
Oh
come
my
out. I'm gonna be able to pet
goodness.
him in a minute.
Oh my goodness. Hi.
Okay. You play with him too. Lessons learned from a lifetime of sailing. Number one, before you jump out of a boat, make sure you can get back in. Having done that before, always a good idea. You'll never gain the confidence in your ability to sail across oceans if you only go out sailing in perfect weather and light winds and calm seas. When sailing conditions are perfect, just keep going. There's no rush to get back in. Sailors have short memories. No matter how bad the weather you're in, no matter what a miserable trip it is, and I know you're out there saying, "I'm never going sailing again. This is it. I'm selling the boat." But luckily, about an hour later, after happy hour, all is well. You're back out there. It's a small world after all, and even though it's a small number of people who are out there actually sailing, it's amazing how often you run into other boaters. I am not kidding you. Once 12,000 miles away from home, underwater, scuba diving. I was scuba diving under a glass bottom boat, and I ran into two people I knew, the aquatic directors from Ohio State University. And interestingly, later that day on this same small ship, two of my clients sat across from me at dinner. I've run into people scuba diving in Allure. I've run into people in Panama that I didn't know were there. I mean, a dozen people. I didn't think I knew anybody in Panama. But you go to where the boaters are, and all of a sudden, everybody you know is there. Another thing is cruising and racing sailors are just different from each other. Racing sailors will constantly trim the sails to get that extra tenth of a knot of speed, where cruisers will change course so they don't have to get up and change the sails. I think the four most asked questions, and I think some of you are going to agree with me, people who are not sailors ask the same things over and over again. Aren't you afraid of pirates? Aren't you afraid of being attacked by a shark? What do you do all night? And what do you do all day? Take time to educate the uninformed. I don't know what they think we do at night. I always say, oh, we just drop anchor in 3,000 feet of water. But, apparently they think that's what happens. When you're cruising, get to know the locals and the culture. If you go eat at the same places you always go eat at home, you're not going to learn anything. Buy fresh fish from the fish camps. Teach the local kids something. Small gifts are really greatly appreciated in these cases. I know we've given pens and decks of cards and batteries and school supplies to people, fishermen who are with their families out in remote fish camps, and it comes back. It's a good thing. Next time I pull into that anchorage, I know I'm the first one on the list who's going to have fresh fish for dinner. Be grateful for diesel engines and sailboats. We all know why. Having boat hair isn't the end of the world. The adventure is getting there. Don't be in a hurry. Planning the trip is half the fun. You can talk about it for ages before you actually get that trip planned. Cruise ships don't come out of nowhere. I know somebody thinks that, and I once, while sleeping, was awoken by my crew who were screaming, and we were literally about to T-bone a cruise ship. And the first thing they did was look at it. Well, I took it off autopilot and steered us away. But the next thing they said was, came out of nowhere. It didn't. Komodo dragons swim. Unfortunately, I found this out after several days of anchoring off of Komodo and Rincon and Flores Islands. And I asked a ranger if they knew how many Komodo dragons there actually were. And he gave me a number like, 1,526, which was kind of a specific number. And when I asked why, he said, oh, because the San Diego Zoo counts them for them. And I curiously asked, are they all on Komodo? He goes, no, they're on Flores, they're on Rincon. There's 6 of them over there. I go, how do you know that? And how did they get there? Well, they swim. I guess I'm glad I didn't know that while I was swimming. There's nothing better, we all know, that than being secured, tied up in your slip in a stormy night and tucked into a warm, dry, cozy berth, reading yourself to sleep as you listen to rain pound on the deck and the boat above you. Sailing is aquatic therapy. If you don't know why, I really highly recommend reading the book Blue Mind. The author is Dr. Wallace J. Nichols. And you'll learn why. They've done lots of studies understanding why we feel the way we do when we're out sailing. You're never too old to have a rhythm band parade. Blame the imaginary crew member. On my boat, that crew member's name is Dawn, and I have a ongoing list of things that break, things that fall overboard, and more often than not, I see, you know, boat hook went overboard. Dawn did it. But anyway, give somebody to blame. Delegate responsibilities. Assign someone to be second in command. We call that person queen of the day. Crew members will lobby for specific jobs where it's a dinghy captain or a pyrotechnics specialist or mixologist, and they of course all want to avoid being the dreaded headmistress or sanitation engineer. Queen of the day has certain responsibilities, making sure the food is not frozen, that we're going to eat for dinner, making sure we do the 10-minute cleanup. And it also gives you somebody else aboard the boat so you don't seem like the person nagging everyone all the time to do their assignments. When things get really rough, try to keep everyone occupied and their mind off the unpleasant seas. There's lots of ways to do that. We often play that game. I'm sailing to Catalina, I'm taking an aardvark. I'm sailing to Catalina, I'm taking a banana and an aardvark, etc. It's amazing how days later you can still go through that list, but it absolutely takes people's minds off the fact that they're getting seasick or you're in very uncomfortable conditions. Eat well while out sailing. Ask crew members what they like to eat. Ask them to be very specific, and don't believe them anyway. I know people will always say, I'll drink anything. And then they get on the boat and go, oh my God, you don't have any coffee? And I go, no, I drink tea. I don't buy coffee. So don't believe that. Also, they will tell me repeatedly that while out sailing, they like to eat carrot and celery sticks. Well, I know it's going to turn to slime on day 5 and we're going to throw it overboard. Just tell them to admit they want a bag of Lay's potato chips and a pound of M&Ms. Whatever it is, find out. People will be much happier if they're with familiar food and drink. If you ever get the chance, jump overboard and swim with the dolphins. Make friends with the sea creatures. Seahorses and even porcupine fish seem really sad when you leave the water. Also, don't eat octopus, they're our friends. Laugh till your sides hurt. When opportunity knocks, answer. To this day, I regret not giving my crazy neighbor Mel Fisher $100 when he asked me to invest in his treasure salvers company. This was, of course, a couple years before he found the Atocha and became the most successful sunken treasure hunter of all times. One of those mysteries of life, jellyfish pulse through the ocean and never tangle their tentacles. Lines properly coiled and stowed still manage to turn into a mess of knots. Encourage teamwork. Get crew shirts, have songs, have traditions, have favorite tables at restaurants, have temporary mermaid tattoos, have a cheer. We have one. Old Girls Gone Wild. Woohoo! Have a secret wave. We have one of those too. Elbow, wrist, flick your hair, blow them a kiss. People run sometimes when we do that. Plan celebrations. Celebrate special and not so special occasions. We have Pirate Day, drink rum, and dress like a pirate and talk like a pirate. Celebrate birthdays. Celebrate celebrations of life. If somebody dies who's a crew member, we've had Hawaii days. We've had Queen of the Seas where we dress in mermaid crowns. We've had pajama days. Stay in your pajamas all day days. We dress up for elegant dinners at sea. Wear your sarongs. Have full moon celebrations. Howl at the moon, drink tequila, skinny dip around the boat. After spending 30 days on a boat with somebody, you'll either be best friends or enemies. Cruising guides are always expensive, but the best money I ever spent was on a cruising guide that helped me find a tiny outcropping near Point Sur where I could anchor for the night when I was so exhausted from fighting 40-knot winds and big swells on a sail up the coast to San Francisco. Whales are curious about us as we are of them. Always pay your boat US or vessel assist or sea tow bill. There's no bigger thrill than jumping off a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in 2,500 feet of blue water for a swim. Sailing a coastline at 5 to 6 knots leaves the features of that coastline embedded in your mind. Later, when you fly over in an airplane at 500 miles per hour or do a Google Earth flyover, you can spot minute geographic details and exact locations where you've anchored. Rays really are happy to see us. I love it when they jump when we anchor. Be safe, do drills, wear your PFDs, harnesses and tethers that night and in rough weather. Winnie the Pooh was right. In case of sudden and temporary immersion, the important thing is to keep the head above water. Deploy more anchor chain than you think is necessary. Make sure you're really stuck in the muck. Pay attention to the tides and the weather and sleep well. Every sailor I know has this instinctive, emotional response of joy and elation when they watch that scene from the movie Captain Ron, when the sails fill with wind and the boat's crashing through the seas and they're sailing rather than just motoring for the first time after leaving St. Pomme de Terre. Do a 10-minute cleanup of your boat every morning. Watch the sunrise, watch the sunset. Hope you're lucky enough to see the green flash. Stargaze and watch for satellites. Wave or talk to the US Space Station astronauts. Learn star stories. Play games, start tournaments. Teach everybody aboard something new every day. Learn something new from your crew members every day. It could be a craft, a song, a recipe, a saying, trivia. It doesn't matter. You'll forget most of it anyway, but a few of them will stick with you for a lifetime. This is how we wound up with a ukulele band.
26 miles across the sea, Santa Catalina is awaiting for me. Santa Catalina, the island of romance, 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 romance. Water all around is everywhere, tropical trees and the salty air. But for me, the thing that's awaiting there is romance.
Interesting things. We've had Play-Doh sculpting contests, tequila tasting contests. You know, we learned trivia like why Otis Redding couldn't possibly have been sitting on the dock of the bay. Bob Bitchin was right. Paradise isn't a place, it's a state of mind. Document, log, photograph, and record, and enjoy your adventures over and over. You can participate in water activities at all ages, and you're never too old to learn to sail. You can learn to sail at 8 in a sabot. You can learn to sail at 60 in a 40-foot keel boat. Like acquiring any new skill, it'll take some lessons. Join your friends, and soon you'll be achieving a level of competence where you no longer have to think about your performance. You can simply enjoy yourself. You'll gain confidence and a more positive outlook on life. You'll feel the tension draining away, and the gentle rocking motion of the boat will help you start to slow down and unwind. If you share your sailing adventure with others, you may learn something.
26